I started printmaking when I was about 27. There'd been a resurgence of printmaking in America, and Australia tends to follow America, so artists in Australia were becoming interested in what they could do in the medium of printmaking. So I'd recently graduated in acting at NIDA. So it was, I was between jobs, and so I needed something to do between work. So I went to a studio workshop in Miller Street in North Sydney, and just offered my services as a technical assistant. And I found myself enjoying the whole process so much, I just leapt into it and started making my own artworks and helping other artists who were quite famous at the time make their works. There were a whole series of artists that many people would have heard of. There's Brett Whiteley and Tim Storier and John First Smith and Charles Blackman and Arthur and David Boyd, and I was just there at the right time to meet all those people and participate and learn my craft. And I spent many hours in the evening experimenting because I wasn't formally trained. There were no boundaries as far as I was concerned, and I came up with some methods and ideas that people hadn't tried before. And the spirit of improvisation and experimentation was in the air. People were ready to try anything out. And there were funny examples. Brett Whiteley wanted to do a huge woodcut and use a tennis court roller on this huge piece of marine ply. With Keith Luby, Keith was trying to create the feeling of an ancient cave that had been weathered by thousands of years. So we just left the plates in the acid and went to a party, so that they were all eaten out to look like, you know, they'd been around for thousands of years. And some such things. And I started a studio with my partner Diana Davidson called Whaling Road Studios, and we became printer publishers. Then we split up, and then I started my own studio, Crown Street Press, which was in Sydney and Crown Street but is now in Paxton. And here we are, this is it. And it's great because there's a lot of room, and you need a lot of room, especially if you're doing large works. So mono printing, which is what you're seeing examples of here, in the 80s I was using huge rolls of paper, 4 or 5 feet wide by 50 metres long, and had the idea of purchasing from Fairfax newspapers one of their newspaper rollers, because they were going digital in the late 80s. So I bought one for $150, and it was 7 foot long, and I had artists like John Beard, John Peart, Charles Blackman, Anne Thompson, all keen to work in the process with me. And we were throwing pigment around to create effects and using paintbrushes, using whatever, hands-on, whatever, to make our images, and using this giant roller from Fairfax to print them. And it all culminated in an exhibition at Charles Sturt University, curated by Thomas Middlemost, in 2008, called Mono Uno. It was a very interesting time, and the artists taught me a lot about the spirit of art and about the methods involved. So that was my art training. In the area of printmaking, I've mainly worked with woodcut, with etching, with multiplate etching, which means integrating colour into an etching, and with monotype. monotype's really what I took up with incredible enthusiasm, because it hadn't been done. Not very many people had done monotypes in Australia before. It had been done before, and as early as 1898, Rupert Bunny, who was an Australian, but he was working in Paris, had been using monotype and working with a beer bottle in his studio. He was actually applying the pressure for the monotype with a beer bottle, and achieving very good results. So it's really an understanding of how you're using the paint, how much paint you have on the surface, the viscosity of the paint, that is how well it will stick to the plate and actually come off into the paper, and the amount of pressure you use. So it's something children can learn to do, something you can do in your home.